So, I just pushed live, so at 7, it's going to kick in.
Okay. Good. Are we using YouTube Live for anything else?
Shit, it just went. Alright, 1 second, I'll let you know.
Okay. And welcome, everyone, to the Davenport Football Coaches Show. We are coming to you live from Uccello's in Caledonia, Michigan. It's the Davenport Football Coaches Show featuring head coach Sparky McEwen. We'll be here Tuesday nights throughout the football season. We want to welcome here. Glad you could join us. You could welcome to stop out sometime and watch the show as we play it here. We also have football tickets, but you can take advantage of the great food and drink specials they have here on Tuesday nights for our Coaches Show. We will have football tickets starting next week because a week from this Saturday, the Panthers open the season on the road, but we'll get you some tickets for the home game. The opener won't come up until the 28th of September. But again, at Uccello's at 8256 Broadmoor. You also know it as M37 if you're in the southwest part of Michigan. And we will talk about the Davenport football program throughout the football season. We also usually, Coach will bring a player or a coach or two to come along and join us, get a chance to learn it. We've got 2 new assistant coaches this year that we're featuring on the program tonight. Marcus White, the offensive line coach, and Lucas Mello, defensive line coach and recruiting coordinator. They will both join us here on the show this evening as well. We'll talk a little bit about that, our background, and how Coach McEwen was able to secure their talents to help the program. A lot of excitement building right now, but the guys are getting used to the practice routine. In fact, they're probably getting a little too used to it. They're a little sick of it right now. We'll talk to Coach about that, see what is happening as far as getting ready to play against another team, and that will come up a week from Saturday. Don't forget, throughout the season, you can follow the Panthers on the Dan. We will have the broadcasts of all home games, live audio and video that you can watch on the Davenport Athletics Network. We will also, on road games, have my audio feed of the broadcast. Bill Rowan and I will call the games again, and we're looking forward to bringing you the road games on the audio. Again, that's for free for all road contests. Now, again, we'll talk to you more about that a little bit later on, but first game is a week from Saturday. That is the 14th, and that is coming up against Lake Erie College in northeastern Ohio. And we are going to welcome Coach right now to the screen as we get ready to talk football with the head coach Sparky McEwen here from Uccello's in Caledonia. And Coach, come on in here, pull in the saddle. We are just about ready to go. Get you all hooked up and ready to rock here. It's that time again. We're already back doing it once again.
Oh yeah.
Let's do it. Yeah, let's do it. Hey, all right. You're racing here from practice. It's that time of year. You're putting new sets in and trying guys maybe in different positions right now. Tell us a little bit about what's going on with the team right now. A week and a half, a little more than a week and a half away from the start of the year.
Well, as you can imagine, right now the guys are kind of sick and tired of each other. You know, we've been in camp for some time. We don't have a week 1 game, so. You know, it's been a little trying, testing for coaches and players, and, you know, we can't get to Lake Erie quick enough.
You mentioned getting a little bit tired of the preseason routine. One of the things you do that is really neat is a way to break up the monotony of the guys hitting each other week day after day throughout the season. you take them away to a camp here in Grand Rapids, and they do different types of activities, not necessarily football activities. They're team bonding and leadership type things, and it helps build and keeps them fresh. Tell us a little bit about that camp that you do.
Yeah, we go over to Pine Island, and I had this idea back from when I started coaching at the high school level, and just knowing that when these kids come together, more so at the collegiate level, because we're getting a number of kids from across the country, and their first experiences with each other is here right smack in the summer. So they truly don't know each other, and now we expect these kids to go out and trust each other and succeed on the field, and they just don't have much knowledge of one another. So we use that time to get away from football. And we don't do anything with football, okay? It's just with team building and trust initiatives and things like that, and just getting to know one another. It's, Rick, I could tell you this much. Last year, I truly felt like that was the difference in the significant start, the fast start that we had last year, is the fact that our guys were able to go to camp, settle in and just get to know one another and figure out who their teammate's going to be and who their roommate's going to be, and talk about things that are important in life other than the athletic side of things.
It's important for every player on that roster, but it's especially important for the newcomers, right? The incoming freshmen and the transfers.
It's so important. It's so important because these guys, they come from great distances. And, I take a look right across the table there. Kent Cullenberg is here. Here's a gentleman that's, come into town from Arizona. He and his family, I see his family's here too, but he's a great example of a guy that knew nothing about some of the Davenport student athletes. So all of a sudden we get him here, and he gets acclimated with some of his other teammates that's from California, from Florida, Texas, all over the country, here with our team. So it's an outstanding camp, and once again, now we have a body of work. We went the first year, and then there's this team this year, and it's two different teams. And so we have our challenges with the first year's group, and then we have our challenges with this group. And as a staff, we kind of get an idea of what we're going to be dealing with there at camp, because when you hunker in for 3 days, a couple nights, you get to learn a lot about the guys, and you get to sit back and see how they intermingle with one another.
You mentioned two different teams. Let's talk specifically as far as where this team is development-wise right at this point. Maybe one or two areas maybe that you're ahead of last year's team, and maybe one or two areas where they're trailing a little bit at this point.
Well, it's a different team, and you hear coaches talk about this, but truly, that's not coach talk, okay? Last year was last year. We have a totally different football team. Now, we have some different, we have some of the same characters, but we've also added a lot of new to DU. And right now, when we take a look at this team offensively, we're more experienced than what we were last year. This is the most experienced offense I've had since I've been here, so that's a plus. On the other side of the ball, last year we graduated, we lost 8 to 9 defensive linemen that were significant to our successes here at DU. We lost Brian Williams, which was a first-team All-American. So we've got some pieces on offense. We've lost a significant amount of pieces on defense. The offensive line, we return a few veteran starters, and then we've got some new guys to help bolster that offensive line group. So we've got a lot of work to do. We've got a lot of work to do and not a lot of time to get ready for it.
So with that loss of those linemen, and you mentioned not only quality but quantity of players on the defensive line, that must have been a real source of emphasis when you're going out looking for potential transfers in the offseason.
Yes, truly. Going into the offseason, first of all, we had two issues. I also lost my offensive line coach and my defensive line coach. So all of a sudden you lose these players, and then you lose pretty much the leaders in those rooms. We've had a tall order here and challenges to figure this thing out before the first game, to replace both your line coaches and then replace an entire defensive line. We got challenges to overcome, and that's one of the reasons we go to camp, is just so that, we can overcome some of those things.
All right, you mentioned the two coaches left. Well, we've got two new assistant coaches, offensive line coach
coach Marcus White and defensive line coach Lucas Mello, and you brought him with us. We're going to visit with them and learn a little bit more about him. So we'll head Marcus head on over here now, and he'll join us for to get a little bit.
You know, we were very fortunate to get this type of talent, you know, at DU as a coach. The references that he had, Cliff Kingsbury, Kevin Sumlin, you know, these are, you know, obviously Kingsbury, he's the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. And then all of a sudden you have Sumlin, that's the head coach there at Arizona. Both these guys spoke extremely highly of Marcus. I didn't know Marcus before the interview process, you know, so through the interview process, I was able to land this one, and it's been, it's been a significant hire for us.
All right, Coach, you go take a breather and grab some of that good Uccello's pizza and food here at Uccello's of Caledonia. We'll bring Marcus on in here, and come on in, Marcus. Have a word to us. And Marcus White, he comes to Davenport from Bowling Green State University directly, but he's had a long defensive coaching career before that. He was at the last few years there. He coached the defensive line and then the running backs in 2018 for the Falcons. But as Coach mentioned, came from Texas Tech and also Houston. And you get people like Coach Kingsbury giving you references like that, and Coach Sumlin. That means an awful lot. That swung a lot of weight in your favor here. Tell us about your experience with coaches like Coach Cliff Kingsbury and Coach Kevin Sumlin.
Well, I think when you're fortunate enough to be on staffs with guys of that caliber, you really have a chance to learn a bunch of different things, different way to do things. You know, a lot of people say you're going to do things the right way and all this stuff like that, but at the end of the day, it's whatever the head coach's direction is, whatever he thinks the right way is. And so I've been able to see some different things from Coach Sumlin, some different things from Coach Kingsbury. That's really kind of just shaped the way I kind of look at football.
You know, and you certainly had an interesting career as a player as well after college, where you started at Auburn, went to Murray State, and then played professionally for the Tennessee Titans in the NFL, and also played a year in the Arena League with the New Orleans Voodoo. Let's talk a little bit about your playing days at Auburn and Murray State, how that prepared you, not as a player or a man, but as a coach. How did that impact your future career here, Coach?
Well, I think it did because so playing at Auburn, you playing at a guy like John Lovett, the defense coordinator, who I was fortunate enough to learn a lot from. Even though I was playing defensive line, I kind of just always took pride in trying to learn the whole defense and try to learn the whole scheme and things of that nature. So when I left there, then I was able to go to Murray State and then under Coach Mike Veit. And I was just fortunate enough to be under guys who didn't mind answering questions, who didn't mind helping you, who didn't mind teaching you. If you wanted to know, they're willing to tell you. And it's not that way for everyone. And I was just fortunate enough to be around some guys like that.
Visiting with Marcus White, offensive line coach for Davenport. Marcus, when you were playing both in college and as a pro, was there a point, obviously you wanted to take that playing career as far as you could take it.
Absolutely.
But was there a point in college that you said, you know what, I think I might want to coach down the road, or did that come later on?
No. It was, to be honest with you, I never wanted to be a coach. I never really wanted to be a coach. At least I didn't know it. I didn't want to be, when I viewed college football and coaches, as I was getting recruited out of high school, I got a chance to meet a lot of people. I heard a lot of things. And I didn't want to be one of those guys who went into someone's living room and had to tell their mom and dad lies in order to try to get them to come to the school. And so that's how I viewed college coaches at the time, because that's what my experience was. But I took a job at St. Paul's High School coaching, and it's a private school in Mobile, Alabama. And there's some type of recruiting involved in some of that. And I found that as long as you were upfront and honest with most people, then that was the only way you needed to be. And so from that point on, I figured, well, if I'm going to be recruiting, then I might as well try to get into college football.
All right, Marcus, we got time for one more question. Tell again, you didn't have a full year to be involved with the recruitment of some of the young men you're coaching. You came in after the spring, and so tell us about the offensive line. I'm sure there's still some positions up for grab, and where is this line right now compared to where you think they should be?
Well, I think we're coming along fine. I think we're starting to find a little bit of a niche. We're starting to put a couple pieces together and move some guys around in different spots. We've kind of experimented a little bit throughout the camp, and now we're kind of settling in, and we're going to be honing in on those things from a game plan standpoint when that comes around. But I think they're moving along just fine. I have high expectations for them, and I'm sure they have high expectations for themselves. And I think they've come a long way from the spring tape that I've seen, so I'm pretty happy, pretty pleased with the progress they've made.
Too early to name a bell cow on the line saying, this is my top guy? Is it too early for that?
No, it's too early for that. Okay. I'll find that out probably about week 3.
Yeah, okay. That's that. Yeah, the offensive line is usually the last thing to really come together, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's one of the challenges. That's why I like coaching offensive line. It's a challenge. You got 5 people going in the same direction. They got to be on the same page, and I think it's a beautiful thing when it all clicks.
Marcus White, great to have you here with Davenport, okay?
Thank you.
Go have some more Uccello's food here. We'll bring in our good friend Lucas Mello, the defensive line coach and recruiting coordinator. He'll be coming over to join us here. Thank you, Coach. We'll have Lucas come on in while you go chow down here. And again, don't forget the opening game is a week from Saturday. That's the 14th at Lake Erie College in Ohio. We'll have the audio broadcast on the Davenport Athletics Network. We're bringing the Coaches Show this year to you on YouTube Live. That's where you're watching it right now, and we hope you enjoy it. We think it's going to be a good setup. Okay. And Coach is coming in. We're not going to get Lucas, I guess, so we're going to get Coach McEwen back here as well and let you talk a little bit about Lucas and what, first of all, how you became familiar with Lucas and what eventually appealed to you, said, this is a guy I want on my staff, not only as the defensive line coach, but also as the recruiting coordinator.
Just that. The recruiting side of things is where he won out against a great pool of candidates for the defensive line position. And this guy, Rick, I tell you what, we lost a tremendous coach in Coach Lynch. And now replacing him was going to be extremely difficult. Well, through the process, and it was a lengthy process, we were able to attract, once again, a guy that I had no knowledge of, okay? And through the process, through the hiring process, all of a sudden I'm going through resumes, and there was just something about his resume that appealed to me. And sure enough, it had a lot to do with the recruiting, okay? He understands the landscape of transfers. He understands the landscape of junior college kids. He's played D-line. He's played it professionally. And if you watch him interact with the players, wow, they just gravitate to him, and has a lot of similarities to the last guy I had here from that standpoint. So getting him here has been huge. He's filled some big shoes, and so far he's off to a great start.
We mentioned recruiting. We have to mention this. I think the general fan out there thinks that recruiting ends when signing day occurs, and that's it till the next year's period. But it's really a year-round process. And Coach Mello, again, he's not been in that full cycle yet to learn, the way you want the recruiting things to be handled, and to get to know the lay of the land here, not only in West Michigan but across the Midwest and beyond.
Well, the nice thing there for Lucas is that he understands the dynamics of recruiting at the small college level, and he's come in already with a pretty good resume of the type of kids to attract, and he's done a tremendous job. We still are putting together our plan for recruiting for this next class. We've started the high school recruiting, but the both of us, once again, we're just dotting I's and crossing T's on exactly what we want to do for the next class.
Visiting with Coach Sparky McEwen, the head football coach of your Davenport Panthers. Open up the season a week from Saturday. That's the 14th from Lake Erie, Ohio. And I'm told that we do get Lucas over here now. Coach Mello will come around and join us and get a quick word from Coach Mello.
Come on in and join us here, Coach. Glad you could join us here at Uccellos of Caledonia for the Davenport Football Coaches Show. Coach was saying that there was something about your resume that jumped out at him, your different experiences playing and coaching. What is it that really, you think set you up to be a good coach? Was it how early on, in high school, college, pro, whatever?
For me, I think a big thing was as soon as I got done playing, I started coaching. Jumped right into it. Didn't want to get away from the game. I've done it at every level, as far as high school, junior college, the 4-year level, Division I level, and then the professional level for a couple years there. And had success at every single level, and then went on to coach so far at every single level. And just it's gone pretty well so far. So
I mentioned to Coach McEwen that you came in after signing day, correct?
Correct.
So your stamp really isn't on the current recruiting class. How much of your time, because you're working like crazy with this defensive line,
right?
But the recruiting process is a year-round thing. Mm-hmm. How do you divide that time? Do you say, okay, 20% of the time I got to spend recruiting, or is it just play it day by day or week by week?
No, it's I tell recruits all the time. My phone doesn't turn off, so I'm on recruit mode 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It doesn't stop, never stops. Obviously, during season we're worried about our games and the guys we got now, but even throughout that, I'm still recruiting. Like, I got here super late, but we still signed a couple guys since then, and it's still not over. We're trying to put the best product on the field, so the recruiting really never ends.
Coach Lucas Mello joining us here on the Davenport Football Coaches Show. Coach, tell us about the defensive line right now. And Coach was talking before you came about those massive losses from last year, because we had some real players on the DL. And now starting from scratch, basically, with that defensive line.
Right.
I guess the bad news is you don't have much returning. The good news, though, a lot of guys got a chance to step up. What do they look like so far?
They look good. I think we're really athletic, on the end spots right now. Interior-wise, we're going to be a little lighter than they were last year. Obviously they had some really good defensive tackles last year. So we're a little smaller than those guys were, but we're going to be a lot more athletic. We're going to move. We're going to be a lot more active. But, I have a couple guys that I think I have 3 guys coming back from last year's team, 2 of them that started a few games here and there throughout their career. Both seniors, Pat McMahon and Robert Clanton. 2 guys that bring a lot of leadership and some veteran experience. Both really good players that we're going to lean on quite a bit. And we got a couple new guys. Abe Thompson, defensive end, transfer from Arizona State, and then a defensive end transfer from San Jose State. Malik Hayes, he's those 2 guys are pretty special at those end spots. So those are 4 really good defensive ends. Those other 2 guys can play inside and really play all 4 spots. So feeling pretty good about those guys. And then we got a couple other guys coming along that we're still working on. But I feel good about my group. I think I've had a little more success with a lot less talent than what I'm working with here. So I'm excited to work with these guys for sure.
Depth, an important issue at any position, Coach, but the DL maybe as much as anyone, because no matter how you prepare for the season, you're going to have guys get banged up and guys go down over the course of the season.
Correct. Yep. Yeah, that's a huge thing for us, is just building depth. So we can't, I tell my guys all the time, I don't have 4 starters. I have 8 starters, and I got to have that depth, at least 8 guys. I'd like to have 10. I try to convince Sparky that we need to travel 10 defensive linemen. But, obviously we got to have depth at other positions as well. But me being selfish, I'd like to carry 10 guys, but we definitely got to have at least 8 that can rotate and not skip a beat when those guys are in there.
Talk about your family. You have 2 daughters, Brooklyn and Brielle. In fact, Brooklyn came over and joined us tonight, huh?
Brooklyn's here.
Did she get any pizza yet?
Yep, she had some pizza, but it's been a long day for her. She had to come to work with me early this morning for staff meeting before school, so she's a little sleepy and a little tired. Staying awake just off M&Ms today.
All right.
But, yeah.
Well, it's great to have you here, Lucas Mello. I know we're gonna have a lot of fun covering your position and the team this year, and we look for great things from you on the DL
as well as the recruiting throughout the year. And we look forward to having you join us again on the Coaches Show down the road.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right, Coach Lucas Mello comes in. We'll get Coach Sparky in for a couple more minutes here to talk a little bit specifically about how this team is ranking and lining up compared to maybe where they should be right now. We'll be back here next Tuesday night, every Tuesday night. Again, starting next week, we will have our football tickets available for home games coming up starting next Tuesday. So if you want to come on out to Uccellos of Caledonia at 8256 Broadmoor Southeast, also known as M37. The GM here, Jeff Kellogg, and manager Paul, and everybody else treat us royally here. Coach, we got a few minutes here. Let's talk a little bit about the positions in general. What would you say, how many positions have not been locked down by somebody? Of the 22 offense and defense right now, how many positions are maybe still kind of up for grabs?
24. 11 on offense, 11 on defense, kicker, punter. We're still looking. Our guys know how it works there. You know, we call it competition. We don't call it competition. You're in camp, and they're competing week in and week out, and we stand by that. Okay, and the best players play, and those guys understand that, and they know that week in and week out they're being evaluated, whether it's in practice, whether it's in games. It doesn't matter. Okay, our guys know we coach to win, and those guys know they have to give those type of efforts. You know that it's a winning effort week in and week out. So week in and week out, you could see someone else, get in that lineup, and that's not a bad thing. Okay, that means that we've gotten deeper, and that's what our hopes were, Rick. You and I have talked off air a number of times about the depth, and we felt like we have gotten a little deeper this year. But my concerns still lie up front.
How much time are you spending right now preparing for Lake Erie, your first opponent, as opposed to just on yourself? How do you ration that out?
Well, it's not coach speak, but we have not, done anything with Lake Erie yet. Number one, they have a new head coach. We'll begin to focus on Lake Erie, on Saturday. Okay, they have a ball game coming up next week. And I can't even remember what day it's on. I think it's either Thursday night or Friday night, and of this week. I'm sorry. We still have business at hand here with our guys. Okay. So
that you'll have a game of theirs to look at that they will not have of yours, right?
Well,
they got last year.
Well,
right?
I'm going to tell you this right now. What people don't realize: a coaching profession, it's a small fraternity. I'll guarantee you they'll have tape on us. It's more difficult for us to have tape on them because it's a new coach. This is the first time he would have been a new head coach. He's been a coordinator. So our focus is truly, on us because I know the type of ball club I have, and as a staff, we just have to make sure that once we kick it off there in Lake Erie, that our boys are ready to go.
And finally, Coach, I know that Kai Black is one of your leaders on the team. Give us a couple other leaders and that we can look for, because I know leadership is a big part of what you're trying to put out there.
Absolutely. Over on the defensive side of the ball, one of the transfers in, Jeremy Kelly, he's a safety. He's a guy that we're looking to replace Brian Williams with. Well, it's going to be some big shoes to fill when the guy's a first-team All-American, obviously. Having him come back, and help us this year. And then also up front, Clanton.
Robert Clanton.
We know it. This is RC's shot. This is his chance. He was one of the guys returning off that defensive line where he started a few ball games, but he was a depth guy for us. But now he's the guy that has to step in and get it done for us. So having those kind of guys on the defensive side of the ball, the back end, the front end, and in the middle, that gives us a shot. On the offensive side of the ball, we return Coot. Coot was a first-team all-conference guy.
Nate Couturier.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Everyone loves Coot, and, him coming back on offense. So think about this now. You have your MVP and Keon Powers returning. You got Coot returning as an MVP from the year before. So we feel good there. We have bolstered the outsides of our receiving cores up. Rick, I always would complain that we were really small in the receiving core. Now we've gotten a lot larger. And then in the backfield, we've got a couple guys in there, and we've beefed up in our backfield. And then we have a nice quarterback competition between Hayden and DeAndre.
And DeAndre Ford, of course, who set a school record in his one game he played last year, and then broke his hand in the next game, the very first series of the next game. So after breaking the school record in just over one half a play, didn't play anymore. Had a chance to talk to him a little bit earlier going into the season about that hand recovery and how he's feeling right now, health-wise and strategically.
So as of right now, I'm probably about like 90%, where I want to be. With camp start, I'll probably still be around 90%. This injury wasn't just an injury that you can take it lightly. It's something that, you got to treat with caution and with care and things like that. But team-wise, I'm excited to get back out there with the team. I'm excited to get out there with, my coaching staff, with those guys. I've been missing those guys. It seemed like it's been forever, but I finally get to, put those cleats back on, put that helmet back on, and go out there and compete with my guys. So I'm very excited and I'm blessed.
And he is ready to rock. I know you're excited about the prospects of getting him back, as well as Hayden Majewski, who did an admirable job of stepping in for DeAndre when he went down. So we look forward to big things from each of them this year. Coach, you know what? Next week we're going to be talking more specifically about that Week 1 opponent, Lake Erie, and so we look forward to being here all season long. Uccellos of Caledonia, they host us, do us a great job making everybody feel right at home here, and we look forward to a full season here on Tuesday nights.
Hey, we're back together.
We are. The band is back together. That's right. For Coach Sparky McEwen, along with Cooper Weidenthaler, our assistant here at the Uccellos of Caledonia. I'm Rick Berkey saying thanks for joining us, and be with us again next Tuesday night at 7 o'clock here on YouTube Live for the Davenport Football Coaches Show. Go Panthers!